Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our next webinar in a series of webinars on engineering careers. I'd like to start by thanking Ohio College Tech Prep for helping us produce this series of webinars. And I'd also like to thank our guest today, Tara, who is from ADT Commercial. Tara, thank you so much for joining us. And Tara is a systems engineer, and she's going to be talking to us today about that career field. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's dive right into the first question.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about your job and how it relates to the success of your company, of ADT Commercial.
Okay. Well, my official title is systems designer. I actually design commercial fire alarm systems with our national accounts divisions. So it's not just local here to Ohio. I actually have national contracts that are all over the country. So 48 states. I try to stay away from Hawaii and Alaska. Their rules are a little bit trickier than what I know. But basically, if we're doing new construction, I design a fire alarm system for that. If they're doing renovations or replacing systems, we do designs for that as well.
Awesome. So your company really relies on you specifically around new construction and designs as well to figure out how to install the fire alarm system. Where do they go? What are the best locations? So your company really relies on what you do for their success.
Yeah, absolutely. So our engineering team, we have about 15 designers on our team who specialize in commercial fire alarm. And essentially what we do all day long, I mean, obviously you have to know how to design the system, but you have to know all the specialized codes for each city and jurisdiction. You make friends with the AHJs and try to talk with them and try to make sure that everything that you're doing is code compliant. So our big focus, like, yes, we need to be able to design the system and know the parts, but the biggest portion of our job is knowing fire code. So
fantastic. So your company is very reliant on your skill set, it sounds like.
Yes.
So what does a typical day look like for Tara?
Well, I have been lucky in this position. I actually work from home. So my design team, like I said, we're national accounts. We're based out of our Irving, Texas office. We do, make accommodations for me to go down there every once in a while for trainings and that kind of thing if we need to. But typically I work from home. So I work 8 to 5. They say I get an hour lunch break. It's, hit or miss depending on how the day goes. Because everyone's in different time zones, my day kind of fluctuates. So if, the guys in California need something, well, my 5 o'clock is their 2 o'clock there. So I kind of get stuck a little bit over sometimes. But typically I work in my home office here, and I do a design bid where I put together and quote fire alarm systems for the customers. And then once that's done, I actually do the designs and do the drawings and put together submittal packages for the AHJ. So.
Awesome. So sounds like lots of time, lots of computer time.
Yes.
Is a typical day. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So how long have you been working for ADT Commercial and within the industry in general?
Well, I started with ADT Commercial in January of 2020. So it's kind of funny. A lot of people said that finding a job was impossible during the pandemic, and I seem to have just kind of fallen into one, which was kind of great. So I've been here since January, but I actually spent the 7 years prior working as a field technician. So I didn't have a typical engineering track. I started in the field as, doing trade. I was doing fire alarm install, service work, inspections, that kind of thing. So I did that for 7 years. And while I was doing that, I went back to school and got my bachelor's degree in engineering. And once I got that done, I finished it I finished it in August and started here in January. So
okay.
But yeah.
Great. We're going to talk a little bit more about your pathway as we move through this presentation.
Yeah.
So what do you love about your job? What gets Tara up every single day and gets you to your computer?
Honestly, the teamwork that we have is really great. I work with a lot of really great engineers, and a lot of them have been in the industry for 30 years. So it's nice because if I don't know something, like it's okay that I don't know it. I'm relatively new to the engineering world, and I get to talk to them and learn from them, and that's really enjoyable. But really, I think my favorite part of this job is the fact that I get to work from home now. So I don't have the commute and I don't have all of that extra stuff. I'm able to, schedule things around my workday. My workday is very flexible at this point. So I'm able to kind of come and go if I need to. And, schedule, I do my own schedule for the most part. I'm supposed to be available from 8 to 5, which, typically I am, but I'm able to sneak in and out, which is nice.
And it sounds like you do the perfect work to be able to fit into that remote schedule as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the nice part is because this job is so independent. So we all have our own different customers that we take care of. So we have our customer accounts. So all of those jobs come to me and I deal with sales and AHJs and the branches to get everything going. But essentially I'm on a team, but I'm working individually. So I'm able to schedule everything around that and to move things around as needed. So.
Perfect. Perfect. All righty. So what about, how many hours a day would you say that you're kind of working on your own, building drawings, doing research on code, that sort of thing, compared to the number of minutes or hours that you spend work in meetings or working together in a group?
So let me think. I'd say I spend the majority of my day doing drawings and design work and doing code study. I'd say probably about 30% I spend in meetings or going back and forth in emails. It's a little bit higher for me only because I run large scale projects also. So one of the projects we're finishing up now is a 1,500 site project. So I'm constantly talking to, I'm working on a separate team with that. And that's a whole separate, party that I have going on there. So I spend a lot more time in meetings than other people do. But yeah, I'd say about 30% of my day is in meetings.
So sounds like two very job dependent regarding how much time you're spending in meetings versus on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of things, if all the information is provided up front, I'm able to do it with minimal conversation with other people. I can usually just get the information they take and put it together and get it back to them.
Okay.
But for larger projects, I do a lot of talking.
Okay. So what would you say is the biggest challenge for you in your job?
Honestly, the funny part about it is one of my favorite part working remotely is also one of the most difficult parts of it because, I've not met anyone on my team in person. I've talked to them, I've video chatted with them, talked to them on the phone, do it all day, every day. I just never actually get to see them in person. And there are a lot of things that we do, especially trainings and trying to learn how to do other things that would be so much easier if we were in person. And it's just not feasible for most of what we're doing. So if I can talk them into flying me to Texas every once in a while, then we can do stuff then, but that's few and far between. So
yeah, that's the new wave of business, right?
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of people that would say the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So work environment, this is easy. We're looking at it.
Yeah. This is it. It's me and the dog and the cat. Right. And I'm sure you can hear the cat beating on the door because he's upset because he can't come in here. So
he's wondering why he's not in this meeting with you.
Exactly. He's like, I hear you. I just don't know why I'm not allowed in here.
What about being on call? Do you have to be on call for anything in your position?
Not typically. Like I said, there are some off hour times just because we have clients in California that I deal with. So if they need something in the couple of hours after that, sometimes I will take care of that. But there are no weekends. Overtime only happens whenever you have a very specific deadline. And if you can't get it done without doing overtime. So, but that's not a requirement. I am salary, so we don't really do overtime a whole
Okay.
lot, so.
Okay. So talk to us about your education that helped you get the position that you're in, the systems engineering position that you're in now.
I have a bachelor's degree in fire protection engineering technology from Eastern Kentucky University. And like I said, I just got that a couple of years ago. So it's, I know a lot of people talk about how you have to rush and go to college and do all this stuff. And I went through and I got my associate's degree in fire science. I was actually a public service. I worked for the fire department. And we're going on 12 years. I'm part-time now. So, and I'm still there now. So it's been about 12 years that I've been doing that. And that's where I started. So I went through and did my fire service stuff, and I got my associate's degree in fire science with the intention of working in the fire department. And while I was waiting to get a job at the fire department, I kind of fell into my job doing fire alarm work, and I fell in love with it and decided I was going to stick with that. And I eventually went back and got my bachelor's. So it was a much longer process than I think most students go through, but it was definitely an evolving thing for me. So I didn't know right when I was 18 that was what I wanted to do. It just kind of, trial and error. And I found something that I was really good at, that I really enjoyed. So I decided to keep going with it.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I'll tell you, I mean, it sounds like what better person to be in the job that you're in than someone who has been there and done that, from growing up in the technician role. It sounds like, that really helped in terms of your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have, I'd say, a little over half of the people on our design team came from the field, and you can tell it's such a huge difference, how we do design and how we look at things. Because if you don't have that field experience, you don't have that knowledge of how it's going to look on the other end, it's very difficult for you to imagine it whenever you're designing it. So, you start putting stuff together and you're like, that's not going to work in the real world. That can't happen. So then we have to, make adjustments, and yeah, my background in the field has been very helpful with that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
A lot of sense. So in your department, then, let's say you're hiring a new candidate. What education does that person typically need? Do they need the exact same education that you have, or what do they need?
No, actually, I am the only one on our design team that has a bachelor's degree in engineering, actually. So everyone else did follow the same path that I did, where they worked in the field, they moved their way up. The big thing that they're looking for is a NICET certification. So I don't know if you're familiar with NICET at all. Let me see if I can hear this.
National Institute of Safety.
It's a National Institute. I know, I had to get my card to look. National Institute for Certification in Engineering Technologies. So that was the big push. So when I was in the field, that was something that a lot of jurisdictions wanted the field techs to have. And most of the field techs, if you're going that route, get your level 1 and 2. Designers are 3 and 4. So once I got my NICET 3, that qualified me to be a designer. So I didn't have to get a degree. I didn't have to do anything else. I didn't do anything special after that. Once I got my NICET certification, that made me qualified. The other thing that you need to know is how to use AutoCAD to be able to do drawings. And otherwise, the extra education that I have is beneficial. It really is. But it's not a requirement. It's not necessary in this industry.
Okay, that's really good to know.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good to know. And what is that one skill that you're looking for when you have a new team member come into the group? What is that skill that you're looking for?
What we're really looking for is an ability to learn, because this is an ever evolving industry. The way that we designed things 10 years ago is different than the way that we do it now. Things are constantly changing. And no matter when you go into different jurisdictions, the rules change. So having the basic information on how to do it is definitely necessary, but being able to adapt and to change and to be like, oh, that's not how you want it. Okay, well, let's look at another option. Let's come up with other ways. So definitely being able to adapt and working together as a team, because a lot of these designs, whenever we run into stuff like that, we all end up having a little group meeting about it. We're like, hey, like what does everybody think the best option is going to be on how to fix this? Because this is an issue. They don't like it. Let's see if we can brainstorm a better plan. So
Okay.
that's the majority of what we do.
All right. So adaptability and willingness to learn.
Yes.
Okay. So what do you student asks you about your job and they're thinking about it. What advice do you give them?
One of the biggest pieces of advice that I would give is to start in the field. Get the knowledge that you can from there. Learn from the people that are out there. Moving straight into engineering is great. It is. There are a lot of people who go that route. But I feel like you will have a much better handle on it if you know what it looks like on the other end.
Right. Right. So you can get familiar with the systems first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then what about the teacher or the guidance counselor who's talking to a student about your field? What do you tell them?
It's really tough. The big thing is just, them even knowing that this is a possibility. When I was in high school and we were talking with guidance counselors and teachers on what kind of careers I wanted. This was never a thing that came up. It was never anything that anyone talked about. And I fell into it on accident, waiting for the job that I thought I wanted. So just having that exposure that, hey, this is a career field and it's an option for anyone, and it's not specific to any person. Some of it is labor intensive, pulling wire and doing install and that kind of thing is a little more labor intensive. But there are a lot of different facets of what we do. So just having the exposure of saying this is an option. And you should really look into, this is a different style of engineering or a different kind of work that you can do if you're gonna do trade work in it instead. But there's so many options.
That's great. That is great to know and great advice, because that's something that teachers can talk to students about and make sure that they know about all of their options instead of the ones that we just hear about regularly.
Right. I mean, when I was in high school, it was, doctor, lawyer, nurse, teacher. That's it. There you go. Those are your options.
Right.
And there's just so many different things. And even one of the other things that's really, and this is kind of a side to what you were saying, but a lot of people shy away from engineering because they think that they're not good enough at math to do it. And while, yes, you do have to be confident in math to be able to do engineering, my job every day is not math based. It's not. We have AutoCAD stuff that we do in there with the programming, but I'm not doing equations all day long, and I'm not building things from scratch anymore. All that stuff most of it's already put together. So you don't have to be a math genius to be able to work in an engineering field.
Well, that is good to know, and probably opens up the field for many more students who maybe have some misconceived notions about what they have to have.
Yeah.
So if there is a typical career path, what does that career path look like in your field?
So there are two ways to get to where I'm at. One of them is to go and get your degree in fire protection engineering and go through that way. If you go through that way, typically what ends up happening is you get your PE license, which is your professional engineer license. And you essentially do what I do. You just do it on a higher level because the PEs are obviously higher than what I'm doing now. But it's essentially the same work. The other option is to work in the field and get your NICET certifications and do it through the tech route, which is how we refer to it, is you go through it that way. And then you end up, essentially doing the same job, just a couple levels down.
Okay. So multiple ways of getting there. So let's say I'm brand new in your career. What would my wages typically be?
So starting engineers are around 80,000, give or take a little bit, but that's a pretty typical range. obviously that increases with more experience and if you have additional education. So,
Okay.
but it's a pretty good starting rate, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very livable wage for sure. So Tara, I asked you a lot of questions. I'm sure I missed something. What did I miss?
Um,
About your job, about your career path, just in general.
I mean, the only other thing that I can really say about my career path is, you know, once you set a goal and you achieve that goal, like just keep going, like find another goal to follow through with, you know, and it all starts with small steps. You know, when I was in the field, I got my NICET 1. And then I went back and got my NICET 2. And I was like, oh, I'm going to work a little harder and see if I can get this NICET 3. Now, my NICET 3 didn't do anything for me when I worked in the field. I didn't use it at all because it just wasn't something that was needed with the company that I was at that time. But I had longer goals. So I think the big idea is, you know, set these smaller attainable goals. And even if it doesn't apply to what you're doing right now, just get it anyway. It's can never hurt to have more certifications or more training or more knowledge, because it could open you up to an entire world that you didn't know anything about, which is exactly how I ended up where I am. Right. I had no idea. I got my field tech job at a job fair at a community college because I was bored that day and I wanted to just go see what they had going on over there. And then I ended up with an entirely new career, and now I'm working from home and, you know, having the flexibility and having the schedule and the lifestyle that I always wanted. I just didn't realize that I wanted it until it became an option, because you don't really think about it until it starts coming into view and you're like, man, no, I really want that. And, you know, now I spend my time doing this, and I'm the chair for the Women in Engineering group for IEEE. And
great.
You know, I'm able to travel around and do a little bit of stuff with them.
Awesome. Awesome. So keep working on professional development is what I heard. Be a continuous learner, and because you never know when a great opportunity is going to become available to you, and you want to be ready.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. Well, I want to thank you again, Tara, for joining us today. And thank you to ADT for allowing you to be with us today.
Yeah.
Thanks also to Ohio College Tech Prep for helping us produce these webinars. And we look forward to seeing everyone again on our next webinar.